Okay. It's live. Live?
Is it on public?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well done.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Here we have tonight, before we start with our lesson, another long-awaited Hadith Disciple Critical Book Review. Hadith Disciple Critical Book Review. The work that we have with us tonight is called The Compendium of Knowledge and Wisdom, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, translated by Abdul Samit Clark. It's called The Compendium of Knowledge and Wisdom, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, translated by Abdul Samit Clark. We normally do book reviews on books that are actually written or wrote in English, authored in English by English-speaking people, whether they come from South Africa, the United Kingdom, South Ireland, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, etc. People that speak English. Even in India, Pakistan, whatever the case may be. English-speaking people, English-speaking audiences. That are normally the types of books that we review, critique, study, so on and so forth. And occasionally, from time to time, we do actual translations of books that pertain to our culture, the culture of Hadith. Hadith culture. So this is the book that we chose to do tonight. It's not a book that's written originally in English, but it's a translation. A translation of a classic and of a classical book. Classic and classical book. But we normally do books in which the author is actually writing and not just translating. Compilation, whatever. I'm sure. However, due to the importance of the book and its monumental status and its importance to the culture itself, the contribution, the addition to the Islamic library in general, and the Hadith library specifically, we chose to take it. So the name of the book is called The Compendium of Knowledge and Wisdom. The translation of the book in Arabic is called Jami' al-Ulum wal-Hikam في شرح 50 حديثا من جوامع الكلم. جامع العلوم والحكم. The collection, the compendium, gathering of ulum, sciences, knowledge, wal hikam, jam'u hikmah, and wisdoms, which explains 50 comprehensive, iconic hadiths. 50 hadiths of the Prophet. In other words, before we get started with the actual book here in front of us, is it a good book, is it a bad book, is it a good translation, is it a bad translation, etc. The book was written by this man, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. We'll get into who he was, who he is, in which he explained 50 hadiths. And he called these hadiths to be jami'ah, thorough hadiths, comprehensive hadiths, deep hadiths. A few lines, a few words, with volumes of meanings, interpretations, principles, maxims that are extracted from these hadiths. Have I clear this? And the original number of hadiths were 42. Some may say 43. Of Nawawi, rahimahullah, Hafiz, and Nawawi. And then Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah, he came along and he added 8 more hadiths, or 7 more hadiths, to make a complete number of 50, 50. He added 8 more hadiths, which he felt, which he thought, which he knew that were similar to the other 42 or 43 hadiths. So he explained Nawawi's book, and he also added to Nawawi's book. So he had 50 hadiths. So that's the title of the book. That's the background and the origin of the book. And then that we'll get into the author, inshallah, when he died, etc. Before we read the excerpts, before we criticize the book, the translation, etc., we say that both in Arabic, the original work, and in English are great books, excellent books. The book in Arabic is a must for any hadith disciple. If you don't have this book in your library, if you haven't read this book, if you haven't studied this book, read it numerous times, then you're not a true hadith disciple. Jami' al-Ulum al-Hikam Ibn Rajab is the bread and the butter. I understand this? It's the fish and the grits of breakfast. Ultimate breakfast. The ultimate book to have in your library and to read. There's no doubt about that. Ibn Rajab, how he wrote, the number of hadiths, athar, principles, fawaid, explanations, dripping with fawaid. So it's a book that you're going to have in your library all of the time. You're going to read this book on a daily basis. If you study Arabic and if you consider yourself to be a self-respecting student of knowledge, let alone a self-respecting disciple of hadith. Everybody understand this? And also, we have the book available in English. The same applies in English, no doubt about this. Everybody clear on this? So that's the book in Arabic. You must have this book. And this would be a book that you've read 5, 10, 20 times. If you consider yourself to be self-respecting, a real student of ilm. Everybody clear on this? Standard reading. For aqidah, for fiqh, for hadith, for ilm, for mustalah, for takhrij, for sirah, kullu shay is in this book. And by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the author, rahimahullah, fulfilled the title. It is a compendium of knowledge and wisdom. So that's in Arabic. There's several different versions of the book which are available. Tahqiqat of the book. If you can't get the actual book signed, then get the PDF. Get the what? PDF. Right. Let's move forward. So we're not going to be criticizing and critiquing and reviewing the actual book itself. We're just going to be talking and dealing with the translation. As we said before, we did a study of the book of Sheikh al-Albani, rahimahullah, al-Hadith Hujjatun. The Hadith is approved by itself, and creed and the law. We didn't critique the work of al-Albani. We critiqued the what? The translation. Our channel is not made and specifically placed for Arabic books and study Arabic books. Now, inshallah, we should serve people who speak and listen to English. Khayran, inshallah. That doesn't mean we can't get any other fawaid from time to time, talking and discussing the style of the book. But the asl of this review is what?
Translation.
No.
Wisdom.
English books. And this work we're dealing with tonight is a
English
translation. So we're going to deal with translation. And not necessarily critiquing, praising the author in Arabic. We gave you a brief background of the class. Yeah, it's sufficient. So before we move any further, we say that the work we have in English is what? Is a good book. It's an excellent book. It's a very good work, alhamdulillah. That's the general what? View, outlook of the book. Without the specifics, it's a what? It's a good book. And it's a good reading. It's something that you definitely would have in your library in English. Alright, then let's take off this jacket or the sleeve, whereas it gets in the way. And as you can see, you read it often or you move it, it gets what? Damaged. I only kept the sleeve on to show you guys. So you can see what it looks like on Amazon, in Dar es Salaam, your bookstore. Everybody understand this? And there's a few things that we want to read inside of the sleeve as well. Let's get started. It says here, Torah Publishing aims to translate important reference works from the Islamic traditions in the English language and to advance the learning knowledge type. That's about Torah Publishing. We'll get started. It has other publications. Then on the back, it has the brief excerpt about the author. So let's get started. As we said, the book is published by, you see the tattoos of the book. Every hadith disciple must have what?
Tattoos.
Several tattoos. Your personal what?
Stamp.
Book stamp. Not just one, not just two, not just three, but what? Not just four. Everybody understand this? Just like people get what? All over their body. And the more they have, the more they flaunt them and show them off. Now, you have to have a what? Personal stamp. At least one. This is my book. This belongs to me. No one else. It's a part of my what? My library. Everybody understand this? Hey, you know, practice what you preach, right? Now, Right, move forward. Turath Publishing. That's the publishing house. Copyright 1428-2007. Turath Publishing. Mitcham Road from the UK, from London. Across the pond, as they say. The translator says General Editors Yahya and Safira Batha. Translation Abdul Samad Clark. Arabic typed by Abdullah Ma'rufi. Editors Shams Abdullah Muhammad. Proofreader next Muhammad Ansar or Ansar. So therefore the book was printed when? 2007. It was published in the what?
1428.
In the UK. طيب. Let's get started with the contents. Publisher's preface, introduction. Then it says, number 1, intention. Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. Islam is built on 5. The decree, innovation, halal, haram, and ambivalent matters. Sincerity and counsel, fighting. The forbidden and the commanded. Pure, wholesome food, doubt. What is not concerned, 1. Loving for others what one loves for oneself. The blood of a Muslim. Whoever has Iman in Allah and the last day. Anger, excellence, Ihsan. Taqwa of Allah, mindfulness of Allah. Shame and modesty, istiqamah, the obligations. Purity is half of Iman. Injustice, the wealthy and the poor. Sadaqah, bir, and itham. Taqwa of Allah, hearing and obedience, a comprehensive hadith on action, obligations, zuhd, going without, causing harm and returning harm, claimants and counterclaimants, seeing something objectionable, brotherhood, easing someone's distress, good and bad actions, optional acts, and wilayah. Mistakes, forgiveness, and coercion, being in the world as if a stranger, desire, forgiveness, inheritance, breastfeeding and kinship, the sale of haram things, intoxicants, a full belly, hypocrisy, reliance on Allah, remembrance of Allah, index. Then we have the publisher's preface. It says here, in the name of Allah, the most merciful, and compassionate praise belongs to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and His blessings be upon His messenger. Allah bless him and give him peace. The Sila Prophet and his family and his companions and all those who follow him. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali was Zainuddin Abdurrahman ibn Ahmad ibn Abdurrahman Rajab as-Salami or Salami. He was born 736 after Hijrah of 1335 of the Common Era. He died 795 of the Hijrah. He was also 1392 of the Common Era. So that's when he was born, and that's when he was what? When he died. The medieval time period. It says here, was born in Damascus, Syria. The author was an expert on chains of net transmission, and this forms the initial part of the study of each hadith. That can be discussed, and we don't want to criticize it. We're just reading it. That's a problem in itself. Then he moves on to examine the various narrations, supporting narrations, and tip rulings, supplementary material from the companions, the followers and the followers of the followers, and the Salihun and ulama up till his own day, as is the case with most of the works of major scholars. Ibn Rajab quotes from the great ulama of all the madhabs. We would like to acknowledge the work of the International Center for Islamic Studies of Australia in first commissioning this translation and its first major edit, and to express our thanks to them for allowing us the honor of publishing it. Then after the work of the translator, we would in particular like to thank Maulana Shams Aduha for his painstaking work on editing the book and in sourcing the hadith which it comprises. And Muhammad Ansar for his proofreading and indexing, and Abdul Latif Whitman for his layout and cover design. Mufti Abdullah Marufi for typing the Arabic, and Sheikh Muhammad Akram for his help on sourcing biographical material on Ibn Rajab. Yahya Batha. Right. Then after that is Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali's introduction. Let's move on to the back of the book, of the sleeve. It gives a brief background of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. It says best known as Ibn Rajab. His full name and titles are Al-Imam Al-Hafidh Abu al-Faraj Zainuddin Abdurrahman ibn Ahmad ibn Abdurrahman, known as Ibn Rajab, Ibn al-Hasan ibn Muhammad ibn Abd al-Barakat, Mas'ud al-Baghdadi al-Dimashqi al-Hanbali, 736 to 795. Rajab was the nickname of his grandfather, and Abdurrahman perhaps because he was born in that month. Born in Baghdad, Ibn Rajab learned much from his father, who himself was a great scholar, then studied in Egypt and Damascus, where he settled down until he died. Among his eminent teachers were Abu al-Fath Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Mayduni, Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Khabbaz, Ibrahim ibn Dawud al-Attar, Abu al-Haram al-Qarasani, etc. And he mentions here he was a leading scholar in the Hanbali school. And he talks about some of the praise of the ulama, some of the books that he wrote. There's a brief biography of what? Of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. So we had to do a book report, a summary. You wanted to talk about Ibn Rajab, this would be a what? brief, simple place. Khayr, inshallah. A few cons on that as well. They didn't mention some of his big teachers like Ibn Qayyim. Ibn Rajab was student Ibn Qayyim. And there is no doubt whether you like Ibn Qayyim or not, whoever he was, Ibn Qayyim was the most famous of his teachers, hands down. No one was more famous, more infamous, and famous, both fame and infamy. Then what? Ibn Qayyim of that time after Ibn Taymiyyah. There's no doubt about that. But moving forward, the author, let's see. Then the book goes on and it speaks on Ibn Rajab's introduction. It says here, praise belongs to Allah who perfected the deen for us and made the blessings on us complete and who made our ummah, and to Allah belongs the praise, the best ummah. He sent among us a messenger from ourselves, reciting his ayat to us, purifying us and teaching us the book and the wisdom. I praise him for his many blessings. I witness that there is no God but Allah alone with any partner, and this act of witnessing is the best protection of someone who seeks protection by it. I witness that Muhammad is his slave and his messenger, whom he sent as a mercy to all creatures. He made it obligatory for him to explain what has been sent down to us, and so he elucidated all the important matters for us. He singled them out with concise, comprehensive speech. Jawami al-Kalim. Concise, comprehensive speech. It says here, so that he often expressed separate pieces of wisdom and sciences in one phrase, or in half a phrase. May Allah bless him and his companions with a blessing which will be a light for us in every darkness, and may he grant him such much peace. Allah, glorious is he, and exalted, sent Muhammad with concise, comprehensive speech. He singled him out to receive astonishing wisdoms, as has been narrated in the two Sahih books from Abu Hurairah, from the Prophet that said, I was sent with a concise, comprehensive speech. Az-Zuhri says here, Rahimahullah said, concise, comprehensive speech, according to that which has reached us, is that Allah exalted is he united many issues for him, issues which used to be written in the books before him separately, and one or two issues and so on. Then he mentions more hadith. We're going to summary of the introduction, why he wrote the book, the importance of the book, the concept of the book, what's meant by Jawami or Kalim, concise, comprehensive speech. Definitely something to read. And as a further faida, every student of knowledge, whenever you buy a book, you should at least read two things: the introduction to the book and the index. The introduction to the book and what? An index. Everybody understand this? One of my teachers in Medina, he taught me this. Every book that you have, at least read those two. Even if you just skim through the introduction on him, try to skim through at least, or read the whole thing, and look and skim through the what? The table of contents, and as to know what's in the book. So if someone comes over your library and say, wow, have you read all these books? My sheikh, he says, yes, I have. I know what's in every single book in what? In general. In some books, I've read all of them cover to cover, etc. So that's the introduction of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, rahimahullah, in which he speaks on what? The importance of the book, the concept of the book, the style of the book, the virtue, how he wrote it, I put together, everybody turn this, etc. Khayr, inshallah? Right. So let's get started with the critique of the book. Right. We said that the book in general is what? Good book. Alhamdulillah. In general. It's a passing book. Pros. Number one. We say it's a smooth, fluid translation style. No big, hard, confusing words. It's not choppy. It's pretty generally what? Smooth. In general. Number two. Lack of lengthy and confusing footnotes. Some books in English, they have so many footnotes that you get lost in the footnotes and you lose focus on the actual metin, the actual text on top. So, some places it's good to put footnotes. Sometimes you may need to put lengthy footnotes. But sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's confusing. Sometimes the footnote refutes and goes against the author and defeats the whole purpose of the book. And sometimes there may be issues that you wish to comment on, but you say that's not the style of this book. Here we just is what? Translation with basic, simple reference. It's not a shot, it's not a refutation, it's what? It's translation. So that's a good thing about the book. Number three is lack of confusing brackets and captions. Lack of confusing what? Brackets and captions. Number four is the professional style of the print of the book. And we've explained this before. This, you may say, is insignificant. What is that? It's very significant. Because the books of Hadith are to be respected. They're to be given their value, their due worth. And we shouldn't have a cheap, choppy, flimsy, falling apart book. See this? It's quality. It's money that was put into this book being made. See this? I'm not the strongest brother here in this masjid. But indeed, other books are what? Everyone turn this been ripped by now. Everyone understand this? As a spine.
Folded.
It's quiet. It's quality. The pages, the type of the pages, the setting. Respect is given to the works of the ulama. The classical works of the ulama. Not some cheap, flimsy, throw together, paper plate service. So that's a pro. Khayr inshallah, whether it goes back to the translator or the publisher or whatever. Moving forward, I believe number 5 is the detailed index in the back of the book. Alhamdulillah. Not the table of contents, but the what?
Index.
The index. Detailed index. Names, places, sentences, concepts, limits of Allah, blameworthy in contracts. Very good index. And the more detailed the index, the easier it is to find what you're looking for in a quick, efficient time, professionally, and a student of knowledge in English or in Arabic. The hadith disciple in English or Arabic is to be what? Professional. Professional. When you do something for a living, when you do something all of the time, 25/8. Khalid? Not 24/7, but what? 25/8. All day, every day. This is what you do, this is your life. And you need to master things. You need to have shortcuts, you need to have roads that save time, save energy, save efforts, because you have 1,000 other books to read. So you may not have time to sit, but you need to find what you need to find. What?
Quick.
Am I understanding this? And there's also time what you should actually look for, what you're looking for. Tayyib, let me know when you finish, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Moving forward. Number 6 is a brief commentary and explanation, occasionally, from time to time. They give what? Brief commentary in the footnotes. Not too often, but what? From time to time, which is a good thing and also a bad thing. Moving forward is objective translation. The translator, he doesn't refute the author. He doesn't translate it how he wants to translate it, distort it. I don't know much about the translator, which I want to get into. That's a con of the book. But the translator doesn't get into issues of dogma and hadith and fiqh and method, translation. And some translators, they do this. Some translators, their hands are filthy. Their hands are dirty, nasty. And when they translate a book, they translate it to suit their aqidah. They translate it to suit their madhab. They distort and twist the words, play with what the author is saying to suit their agenda. That's dirty. That's not clean. Everybody understand this? In Arabic and in what? In English. People who make tahqiq, ta'liq on the different books, and they talk about it really means this, taqillah. If the author's Hanbali and you're Hanafi, translate the book as it should be translated. Don't translate it according to your madhab. Twist it so it can go with Abu Hanifa. No, don't do that. Everybody understand this? If you're Ash'ari and he's Ahlul Hadith, don't translate this name, this attribute to suit the Ash'ari creed. Everybody understand this? Khayr inshallah. These are some of the most important pros of the book. Not all of them, but what? Some of the most important. Let's get to the cons. Number 1 is lack of mentioning what print was used. What book was used in Arabic? And we've discussed this many times in the classes. Was it the first print of the book? The tahqiq of Fulan, tahqiq of this one? Whose book? Whose version? The versions of the book, they differ. There are variances, there are variations, there's discrepancies. Some manuscripts are more thorough than others. Some works in Arabic are more what? Thorough than others. You translate a book, where did you get it from? What volume, what print, what year, what company? You leave us what? Totally what? In the dark. That is very bad. And that's most books we find in English, this is the case. Bukhari, Ibn Kathir, Fulan, they just translate it, they don't say anything. That is extremely unprofessional in Arabic, let alone in English. And shame on them. Torah Publishing say shame on them for not doing that. And that needs to be fixed and corrected in the next version of the book, inshallah. The next con of the book is who placed the chapter headings. Where do the chapter headings come from? Ibn Rajab, the translator, the editor, Mufti, Maulana, Fulan, who put them? Purity is half of Iman. I'm not saying that's a bad chapter, but who put them? Is that Ibn Rajab's speech? Did Ibn Rajab in Arabic put that unwan or not? If he didn't place it there, and you're putting it in the book, you're doing what? You're transgressing the boundaries. It's a translation. You have to put it in caption. You have to put a footnote. You have to put an introduction. We place the what? Headings. The headings are not from him, but from us. And if not, then that is going against the amana. Writing a book, doing tahqiq of a manuscript in Arabic, translating a book is something that needs a what? Amana. Is a trust, an ethical code, like doctors. What and what? Ethical code. You're not to go against that ethical code, so that's bad. Number 3 is, who is the translator? Who is Abdul Samad Clark? Where does he study? Where did he learn English? Where did he learn Arabic? Where? Who? We don't know nothing about your man. It's very sad. Not saying it's a bad translation. Not saying that I know what he looks like and what he ate for breakfast. No. But we need some basic knowledge on what? Who the translator is. Everyone understand this? Very ugly mistake as well. Number 4, sometimes you have incomplete commentary. Sometimes they start speaking on a thing, whether it's the editor or the translator, and then it just leaves it. And it's not thoroughly discussed. Either you're going to deal with it or you're not going to deal with it. Don't leave the reader in suspense. No? Number 5 is lack of information. Okay, we'll suffice ourselves with 4 cons of the book. And as we said before, just because we have cons in the book doesn't mean it's a bad book. But it's a critical what? Critical review. Right. Let's move on to a notable quote from the translation. A notable quote. Page 119. Excuse me, I forgot to mention how many pages the book is. It's over 800 pages, about 820 pages roughly. Page 119 says, this is a notable quote from the footnote. Speaking on the hadith number 7 of nasiha. It says here, the word nasiha and nusх are synonyms in the Arabic language. They have very deep and broad meanings, as a result of which they are difficult to understand from a straight single word translation or even an Arabic synonym. Sincerity, in a very broad sense, is probably the closest English word that can be used, probably, according to them. This is because the hadith commentators say that the underlying basis of nasiha is ikhlas, i.e. sincerity, and in short, it can be interpreted as wishing the good welfare of another person. Wishing the good welfare of a what? Of another person. Being transparent. Wanting good for your brother, advising your brother, talking to your brother, giving your brother his rights, the leader, the subject, anyone, nasiha to the Quran, what's nearby, nasiha towards the Quran, and things like this. He says this on Nihaya of Ibn Athiyah. What page? Doesn't mention that. This encompasses meanings such as good counsel, which is a common manifestation of nasiha. Furthermore, nasiha means different things in different contexts, as the forthcoming discussion will reveal that nasiha towards the leaders is not the same as nasiha towards the general public. And nasiha towards Allah and His Messenger is again different. In the commentary of this hadith, sincerity will be generally used as the preferred translation for the words, while other meanings such as sincere, good counsel will be used where that is deemed appropriate to the context. Although this will be discussed in the forthcoming commentary, it will be useful for the reader to hear or to bear in mind the broad sense of the words from the outset, ED. I guess that's the editor. That's not bad, alhamdulillah. It's good, it's beneficial in English. It could have been more thorough with regards to nasiha, with regards to the Quran, but it's good, alhamdulillah. But that's a notable quote on page 119. There are many of them in the book, alhamdulillah. Now let's move on to some specific errors, specific examples of sins of the translation. We gave the general sins. Now we're going to talk about the what? Specific points. So no one says we're just making this up. Specific things which we feel that the translator erred, or the editor erred, is which is a blunder. First is, which is a very bad blunder. Perhaps we'll read some things. Maybe we got enough time. On page 1, or the first page, says here what? Sorry, I'm flipping around. And it's very good to flip through the book. The more you flip through the book, the better you what? Get to know the book and the more things you find. It says here, where we put this at? Not the publisher. This is weird. طيب. 1 second please. Inshallah, patience. Okay, here we go. It says here, for my mother, Fatima Betha, or Betha, I'm not aware of the proper pronunciation of the word, excuse me. It says, Jannah lies beneath the feet of mothers. Ahmed and Nasai. It says, paradise lies at the feet of what?
Mothers.
Of mothers. And then he says in this hadith, he doesn't say it's the statement of a prophet, so the reader is supposed to automatically what?
Thing.
No, and suppose this hadith, that's incorrect. You talk to somebody as if they know what? Hey, I'm teaching. Says Ahmed and Nasai. Now, this is probably one of the most famous hadiths in English. Maybe not the most famous, but there are many. This is one of the most famous. No doubt about that. Top 5, easily. Paradise is under the feet of what? Mothers. You may go to the supermarket. You may talk to your non-Muslim mother-in-law. Muslim here, they'll quote this hadith on you. Salah, beard, riba, hijab, not important. But mother, obey your mother, don't go overseas, don't do this, don't go to the masjid, shave your beard, etc. And then use this proof against you what? Paradise at the feet of the mothers. Everyone understand this? Do whatever your mother tells you to do. Don't do what she tells you not to do because
Paradise is under our feet.
everyone understand this? So before we get into this hadith authentic, is it a hadith? But just the concept of how the hadith is misused and abused. And all 50 other hadiths, the people just totally what? Disregard. It means nothing. The Prophet says, grow the beard. You don't take that, but you take paradise on the feet of the mothers. The Prophet says, do not obey one of Allah's creatures, and now which entails what?
Disobedience.
What happened to that? So people, they just play around with hadiths. Everybody understand this? They play around with what? With hadiths, how they want to. Now, this is a hadith, famous hadith, and this hadith is extremely problematic. Hadith states that paradise is under the feet of the mothers. We'll read here, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some more benefit with regards to this hadith. It says here, الجنة تحت أقدام الأمهات من شئنا أدخلنا ومن شئنا أخرجنا. The rest of the hadith says, anyone that the mothers want to go to paradise, will go to paradise. And anyone whom the mothers don't want to go to paradise, what? They won't go to paradise. So your mother can just tell who goes and who doesn't go to Jannah. Kafir, mushrik, Muslim, she's going to Jannah or not, but she has the total authority to do what?
Choose.
Extremely problematic. This hadith is fabricated. Rather, there's some people who may say that it has baseless, no foundation whatsoever. Everybody understand this? Is the meaning of the hadith correct? Why would the person, the editor or the translator, whoever he was, mention this hadith like this? No reference, no nothing, just Ahmed and Nasai. That's firstly. Secondly, which makes it even worse, is the second black eye, the first jab, then cross, 2 black eyes now, is that he's confused, and now he has compound ignorance. Because this is a different takhrij. Imam Ahmad and Imam Nasai reported another hadith, not this hadith. And I'll read it to you from its original source in the Arabic language. It's narrated by Muawiyah ibn Jama'ah. Muawiyah ibn Jama'ah. أنه جاء النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أو جاء النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول الله أردت أن أغزو وقد جئت أستشيرك فقال هل لك قال نعم قال فالزمها فإن الجنة تحت رجليها رواه النسائي وغيره كالطبراني وصححه الحاكم ووافقه الذهبي وأقره المنذري. The hadith states that this companion came to the Messenger of Allah and he said, "O Messenger of Allah, I wish to seek your advice. I want to go fight jihad in Allah's cause." The Messenger of Allah said to him, "Is your mother alive? Do you have a mother?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Falzamha." He said, "Stick with your mother. Don't go and fight, serve your mother. Because paradise is at her feet." Mothers or what? One mother. Your mother. This companion, believer, this type of jihad, not that paradise is under the feet of what? Mothers. The narration says, "Tahta rijlayha," beneath her feet. And another version says, "Inda rijlayha," at her feet. In other words, your service, your dutiful obedience, your benevolence to your mother is a means of you going to paradise. Just as jihad and martyrdom is a means of
Paradise.
Everybody understand this? This is the hadith collected by Imam Ahmad, collected by An-Nasai, Tabarani, so on and so forth as we read. Not that other bogus, baseless, false hadith. That paradise is under the feet of the mothers. Whomever they will, whomever they choose not to, will or not enter paradise. So there's two problems that the author mentioned. Why did he fall into these mistakes and these errors? Only Allah knows. But we say, from the reasons that are apparent to us, is that number one, he's not a specialist. We mentioned many books before, he isn't a what? A specialist. And when you're not a specialist, you fall into these blunders. So the job of someone who is not a specialist is to do what?
Go to a specialist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Consult a specialist. Is to do what? Consult a specialist. I'm a master translator. I have degrees in English, so on and so forth, and in Arabic. But in Hadith, let me call up my friend. Assalamu alaikum. Naam, Sheikh Abdurrahman, such and such. I have a book that I did. Could you mind looking at it, please, when you get a chance? Could you help me out with some Hadiths? Could you send me some Hadiths about my mother, dedicating, so on and so forth? And this is what most people don't do. But when it comes to the dunya, they're sick, they're ailing, they have problems. What's the first thing they do?
Doctor.
No, not just a doctor.
Specialist.
Specialist, cardiologist, optometrist, this one, specialist. Someone who has in-depth, extensive knowledge on this field, this science. And that's what they ask, and they follow their advice and their expertise. Muslims, on the other hand, we feel we can just do and say whatever we want, and this is dangerous. Now you're lying on the Prophet said something. And you're making an inaccuracy, so that's very bad. Everybody clear on this? Moving forward with the next specific error, or specific sin of the book, and it's probably the last one I will mention, page 445. There are many, not that many, but a few. We only mentioned a few. It says here, Hadith number 28, Taqwa, hearing and obedience. It says in the footnotes, it says the Khulafa mentioned here have two attributes. Rashideen, they take the right way. And Mahdiyin, they are rightly guided. Thus, the Khulafa Rashideen are literally the Khulafa who took the right way, translated. What does that mean? That's firstly. And secondly, what is the faida of that? You just mentioned that they what? They take the right way and they're rightly guided. Then it says that they literally mean that they are those who took the right way. What sense does that make? Everyone say this? And this is what we mentioned at the beginning of the book. Some footnotes are what? Incomplete. Everybody doing this? This is a brief example. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's something that's like, makes you spin. Like, what's the fact of that? Everybody saying this? Khayran, inshallah. In general, the translation of the book is pretty good. It's pretty thorough. Walillahi alhamd. I think that should be it with regards to the specifics of the book, the quotes, the notable quotes, and the sins of the book. At the end, we will give the translation, inshallah. I will give them, to be honest and to be fair, 4 out of 5, 4.5 quills out of 5. It's a very good grade, alhamdulillah. 4.5. 4.5 quills out of 5 quills. So therefore, in brief, if you see this book online, if you see it in the store, you're definitely going to what? Pick it up, read it, benefit from it, study it. It doesn't mean that the book is perfect. No book is perfect except for the Quran and Kareem. No book. Nothing after the Quran is 101% perfect. Period. But it's a very good, thorough book. Those cons, those sins are a few examples from them on what? 800 and some pages. These are 1 or 2, 10 out of 800 is still what? Left 20. There were 20 mistakes out of 800 pages. It's still what?
Great.
Very good. So don't no one take it to the extreme that we're just bashing the author just for the love and the sake of bashing God. Everyone understand this? So pick up the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should knows best. Jazakumullahu khairan. Until the next session on Hadith Disciple Critical Book Review.
Cool.
Follow.
There was an issue just a couple days ago here. A few brothers, they were having an argument in regards to weed, marijuana. They said how marijuana is permissible and it's from the earth, and the Salaf used to take it to relax themselves, and they said that it's not processed. You could just take it from the ground and just smoke it, and like Motrin, Tylenol, these are made from cocaine and all these drugs. Those are like heroin, rather marijuana, something Allah gave. So they were basically saying it's permissible. But what's the true understanding? Is it permissible or is it impermissible?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Question says, a few days ago, some brothers here in the masjid, they had a debate or an argument, or not an argument, a conversation on marijuana. Some people, you said weed, the word you used, but it has many names: marijuana, weed, pot, Mary Jane,
Skunk.
etc. And the reason why this is very important as well, this thanks to the answer, is that marijuana has been around for a very long time in many different cultures, many different usages, marijuana, hemp, etc., grass, etc. And this is one of the reasons why it has so many names. And this is a very important fact in general. I'm not being funny. Anything that has 20 nicknames, 50 nicknames, is something that has an integral part of society. This is a fact for Talib. An integral part of society that's been around for a long time has several what? Names. Money, cash, cream, cheese, chicken, dough, paper, chemical bankings.
Butter, bread and butter.
Bread and butter, I never heard that one. Tayyip, Skrilla, Scratch, Flus, Chips, Bands, Rats, Stats, Big Faces, Dead Presidents. This is reality. This is not being funny. This is real. Which shows you that the concept of wealth, people dying, people worshiping it, trading is what? Is a staple part of what?
Society.
Of society. Everybody understand this? Different names and titles for all the things. Sexual intercourse. It's known. Parts of the human anatomy. How many names are there for this part of a person's body? For this part of a woman, for this part of a man. The concept of intercourse. There's a million names for it. Is that everybody from the black to the white, the yellow to the red, the north to the south, east to the west, they all have what? Sexual intercourse. Reproduction. Everybody says this is important. So therefore, marijuana has been around for a very long time, and it's a very deep issue, and this is going to have a direct effect on the what? On the answer. On the what? On the answer. Everybody clear on this? So before we even start talking or get into the concept of marijuana and weed, is it permissible, is it impermissible, is it haram, is it the devil's weed, etc., we say is that a Muslim is prohibited from speaking about that which he has no knowledge. Imam, scholar, mufti, qadi, ammi, layman. If you don't have the proper knowledge, then you are not to speak about these things. Allah says, do not approach, don't go near. Don't come close to that which you have no knowledge of. Why not? Because what you listen to, what you see, your heart, all of these things, man is going to be what?
Question about.
Asked about. Man will be asked about these things. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ رَبِّي الْفَوَاحِشِ. Allah mentions to the Prophet ﷺ, what my Lord has made unlawful is what? Fawahish. Lewd, indecent things. ما ظهر منها وما بطن. That which is public, that which is private. والإثم والبغي بغير الحق. Sin and transgression unjustly. Now, to make shirk with Allah, that which you have no sultan, no authority of, no knowledge of. وأن تقول على الله ما لا تعلمون. And for you to say about Allah that which you do not know. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned, speaking about Allah without knowledge is the greatest sin in Islam. The greatest sin in Islam. Worse than shirk. Because Allah mentioned fahisha, ithm, baghi, shirk, and at the end He said what? وَأَن تَقُولَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So He said that's the greatest sin. And shirk and kufr is nothing more than a result and a product of speaking about Allah without knowledge. Saying that Allah is a son. Who told you that? Where'd you get that from? What knowledge do you have to say that Allah is a son? I have to go to this grave for my dua to be answered, to be accepted. Wearing this around my neck, around my arm, writing this on my foot is a means of shifa. Who told you that? The Rasul? The Kitab? You speak about Allah without what? Knowledge. So shirk and kufr are results and fruits of what? Speaking about Allah without ilm. Now, and there are many other ayats in the Quran and Kareem that deal with impermissibility and the severity, the gravity of what? Talking about Allah without ilm. So it's important for the Muslim to avoid this. If you're a student of knowledge, you don't have the proper ilm, keep silent. We can research, we can study, we can ask, we have a book in front of us, but to just talk idly. It's not haram, it is haram, it's kada, it has to be what? Totally
Sorry.
avoided. Talking about marijuana, talking about salah, talking about someone's a deacon, any shit in the deen. Without the proper ilm, you must keep silent. And even if you do have knowledge, or the proper knowledge, you shouldn't just be talking like a cow chews. A cow just sits and chews. A panda bear eats and eats and eats bamboo. You know how much a panda bear eats in a day? You'd be shocked how much it eats. It just chews and bites and crunches all day long. That's how many people are. They just talk. Nah, that's not the way of the ulama. It's not the way of the people. Hadith. Relax. Slow down. Take it easy. Even if you do have some type of ilm, just you shouldn't what? Talk about so much all of the time. So that's general advice. Having nothing to do with marijuana and weed. We clear on this? Inshallah, we can clear on this. The next step is a thing being haram or halal is not just based off of it being natural or unnatural. Something is synthetic, something comes from chemicals, something is man-made, something comes from a laboratory, something comes from ground. That is not the determining factor of halal and haram. There are things that are lawful that are synthetic with chemicals in them. And there are things that are haram which are natural. That is not mantiqi. That's not logical speech. Just because something natural is what? Just because something is man-made is haram. No. No scholar, no student of knowledge, no one with common sense thinks like that. And anyone who does think like that, something is seriously wrong with his mind. It's permissible just because it's natural. It's haram just because it's batil. Zina, man-made or natural? Which of the two?
Natural.
Without a doubt. Is it permissible to sleep with whatever you want to sleep with? No. It's false. Poison. Poisonous mushrooms. Poisonous shrubs. All types of different natural things from the earth. It's permissible to eat them and drink them? They'll kill you. But it's what?
Natural.
It's natural. A wild animal attacks you. And a wolf, a timber wolf. Natural or unnatural?
Natural.
Everybody understand this? Having a dog as a pet. Dog natural, man-made, genetically bred? Which of the two?
Natural.
Natural. Doesn't mean it's what?
Permissible.
So it's false. It's batil. We need to stay away from that. That logic is what? Bad. Now, let's get into the core nitty-gritty of the issue. Marijuana, is it permissible? Is it impermissible? If someone says that marijuana is haram, then they say it's haram for several reasons. Number one, they classify it as khamr. They classify it as an intoxicant. It's not a drink. It's not necessarily wine or liquor, but it's an intoxicant, something that gets you high, that plays with your mind, that clouds your eyes, clouds your vision, clouds your aql, has an effect upon your akhlaq. Everybody understand this? You may say or do something that is against yourself, against another human being, against Allah and His Rasul. It intoxicates. So those who say that's haram, they classify it as haram because it's what? An intoxicant. It's khamr. Number two, they may say that marijuana is haram because it has a profound effect on your behavior and your character. Some say that it causes men to act feminine. Some say this. Some say it causes a person to behave foolishly. And just because something makes you act foolishly doesn't mean that it's an intoxicant. So it's not reiterating the first point. And others may say it's a waste of time, a waste of money, an addiction. It's habit causing. And some they may say that it's a means of foul smell. It's a means of making your fingernails look a certain way, your lips look a certain way, your teeth look a certain way, your lungs, your throat, your tongue. It may cause what? Cancer. And these things are prohibited. Destruction of oneself, killing yourself. Your body is an amana that Allah gave you. Allah prohibited us from killing ourselves. So these are the main points that they may say why marijuana is what? Haram. In all modes of its usage. Smoking it, vaping it, etc. Everybody understand this? What? Etc. Khair inshallah. With details with regards to vape and the vapor, we don't need to get into that right now. Now, some brothers who say it's permissible, or some people may say it's permissible, perhaps they counter those evidences. And they say, if you say that weed is haram and marijuana is haram, then your Advil, your Motrin, your Leave, your Advil PM, and all these other Percocets and Xanax and this and that are also haram because they are what? Intoxicants. They're khamr. They get you high as a kite, cloud nine. High as the pigeons in the morning. Everybody understand this? Now, what does the first person want to say? How is he going to refute that? Regardless whether it's used as medicine, regardless whether it's administered by the health, by the FDA, whether it's, regardless of those things, they may say, can you agree with me, Akhi? Smoking a joint, a blunt, a reefer, a spliff, whatever you call it, that gets me high, and taking 2 pills also, regardless of where it comes from, how they make it, and why I'm using it. That's another argument. But we can both agree that it both causes me to feel a certain way. So if weed is haram, how can you take the pills? And they obviously intoxicate me as well. I can't drive when I take this medicine. It puts me to sleep. It makes me feel like I'm flying in the sky. I can't feel my face, as they say. Is this not the case? So then the first dalil is going to be problematic. It's going to be what? Problematic. And the second, the one who says that weed is haram, he's going to have to do one of the following. Number one, he's going to admit that point, and he's going to follow the view that weed is halal, persist saying that weed is haram, and accept contradiction and hypocrisy. He's going to have to what? Accept contradiction and what? Hypocrisy. A lack of consistency in argument. Why is this haram, but that's permissible? I'm not saying that all pills cause intoxication, because they don't. And those who say that, they're wrong. All painkillers do not cause intoxication, but some do. Everybody understand this? That's a khata. Many people, they say that. Pills get you high. All pills do not get you high. Weed does what? Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? The next point, number 2, they may counter their argument by saying that weed is natural. Not saying this because natural is permissible, but those pills are man-made. They're manufactured. They have all types of harmful effects upon the body, upon the mind, upon the liver, upon the spleen. They are also habit-causing. They're also addictive. When a person is hooked on those pills, even if it's small pills, he loses supper. The first thing you do when you get a migraine is what? First thing you do when you get tired, this hurts, you do what? Pop a pill. You don't mention Allah's name, you don't make dua, you don't try to go to sleep, take your mind off it by reading the Quran, you do what? Pop, 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 pop. So if marijuana is habit-causing, then pills are also habit-causing. If marijuana is a waste of money, it's something that's costly, then those pills are also costly. Let alone riba, interest, insurance. You can't get certain pills unless you have a plastic card, and the list goes on. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear this? The concept of the throat, the nails, they say pills have bad effects as well. Marijuana is natural. Everybody understand this? So, the core issue is this. Number 1. Is it permissible to take an intoxicant for medicinal usage? If you say yes, and if you say no. If you say yes, you can take a Percocet or whatever other pill. Then you're also going to say you can use some type of regardless, whether it's smoking or not. But the general concept of the khamr, taking it for what? Severe pain and agony and suffering. And if you say that it's haram, you cannot use them at all. Khamr is a sickness in itself, as the hadith states. Allah has not placed your cure in illness, then you're going to say both marijuana and the pills are what? Both of them. Because they both cause damage, they both habit-causing, they both are addictive, and the list goes on. Everybody understand this? A third person, he may come in the middle and he may say, smoking weed is haram. Not because of the weed, but because of the smoke. And what it causes, what it does to one's body. As far as using weed in an oil, hemp, vaporizing it, a pill, this and that does not cause the damage that smoke causes, then some might say it's what? They could say it's what? Permissible. Whether it's absolutely permissible or restricted to severe cancer, severe pain, severe agony. A person has severe nerve damage, and they're in constant pain. If they take a pill, they just lie there like a vegetable. Can't do nothing in life. And if they take the marijuana through vapor or through oil or through some type of food, then they can have some type of life they can live. So some people, they may use what? Details. They may give a what? A detail of seed. Last but not least is learning the history of marijuana. As we said about those different names and titles, what is the history of marijuana? Why is marijuana and weed such a bad thing culturally, socially? But pills that come from morphine, that come from marijuana, that come from the poppy seed, that come from opium and all of these types of major drugs, why are they accepted? Why are they used? Why is it so okay to take these major types of drugs in a bottle, but you can't smoke it, or you can't vaporize marijuana? Why not? Everybody understand this? Before we go on further, one last detail, very important, is that those who say there are different types of marijuana. Marijuana, they have different levels of the actual chemical ingredient that causes the intoxication, THC, whatever they call it. All types of marijuana are not the same. Some types of marijuana are specific for medicine, specific for healing, specific for damaged nerves. Other types of marijuana are specific for other things. Certain types of treatment, certain types of development of the plant takes out the intoxication and leaves the healing in the medicine. And this is something which a person can argue and say has been medically proven in recent studies. But why recent studies? Why is it a new discovery to certain people? That is something that you have to read about, the history of marijuana in the United States, the history of marijuana in the United Kingdom, the concept of Christianity, Christian values, and weed. In brief, I'm not going to give you a lecture. The concept of weed in the past, it was looked down as something to be a means of paganism, heathenism. Idol worshippers smoked weed. And the good book, and the people of the good book, and the church, and Jesus Christ, was something that were against that thing. And those who did use weed were normally people that were what?
Lower class.
Low class people. Everybody understand this? Indigenous people. Because marijuana was used as a drug for spirituality. High priests smoked it, did different things to take them to a spiritual trance. Elevated them with their gods and their deities, etc. So obviously you have a European settler, someone colonizing the country. First and foremost, you're cursed because you're a descendant of Ham. Whether you're black or whether you have any color in your skin. Indian, black, you're not white, and you're automatically what?
Cursed.
Cursed. That's the first concept. You're what? Cursed. There's a Christian values now. Most Christians. You're automatically cursed if you have any type of pigmentation in your skin. That's number one. Number two is that not only are you cursed, in the good book, the Bible says that you're cursed, which allows slavery, oppression, rape, because you're cursed. You're not even a real human being. You're half of a human being. So everything from your way, from your culture, from your religion, from your practice is generally rejected based off of Christianity. And it's one of the things that happened with regards to hemp and marijuana. Opium was accepted. The things that came from opium were okay, but not from the devil's plant. Because that's what these people used to smoke in Central America, or South America, or Mexico, or in Africa, or in East Asia. Everybody understand this? So who are the people that formed the society, that made the laws, that made the hospitals, that created the modern banking system, except for what?
White.
Christians, white Christians. The Templar Knights, they say, made the modern banking system. All types of laws, restrictions on guns, narcotics. You read the history of them, 9 out of 10 of them are based off of racism. One of the main reasons, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons why there are gun laws in America is racism. It's to allow certain people to have guns, a slew of guns, a ton of guns, and other minorities not to have what?
Any guns.
No guns. When cocaine was permissible in America, when heroin was permissible in America, it was unlawful and impermissible for black people. Whites could smoke cocaine, could do things with cocaine, not black people. Because the whites were responsible for cocaine and the blacks were savage animals. And the same applies to weed. The concept of weed, of hemp. And if you read the ancient history of Britain, you'll find when they dealt with it and when it was abrogated and canceled. And when they totally issued an order to get rid of it, and it is the weed of the devil. That's one of the reasons why I call it weed. Everybody saying this? So is weed haram because it's haram of Kitab and Sunnah? But pills are permissible? Or is weed haram because you don't even realize you've accepted these Christian, mushrik, Viking, sun god worshipping values? Everybody understand this? So if you say that weed is haram, then that's based off Kitab and Sunnah. And be careful of being tricked mentally in something that is acceptable but unacceptable. Everybody understand this? The concept of polygamy. Why is polygamy so bad? Why is it looked down upon? Why can't a man marry a younger woman? Why is it so bad for an older husband and a younger woman? Why? What is the reason why, if I ask you? Why can't an older man marry a younger woman? Why not?
Goes against their core values.
Core value. Why? So what's bad about an older man marrying a younger woman?
She's not old enough.
She's not enough for what?
Sex.
Consent.
Consent.
Or sexual intercourse. Or children. What's so bad about the concept of pedophilia? And what defines and determines pedophilia? What's so bad about it? What's the main vice about it?
She can't
The person
defend.
hasn't reached the decision-making stage.
She can't make a decision. Or
She can't protect herself
she can't protect herself from what?
from the harm.
We said marriage.
That's it.
It's marriage. This is marriage. This is not the right answer. You guys know the answer, but you're not giving it. What's so bad when a child is molested, raped, something is done,
She's taking advantage of it.
taken advantage of, against her will, things like this. Everybody understand this? But it's much deeper than just consent.
Her
It's
body
much deeper.
coming damage.
It's all types of damage. In other words, one could hypothetically say, if all of these things are done away with, what remains of immorality? What is immoral about older and younger? What remains? She's old enough. She's given her consent. Her mother, her father, her guardians, they've allowed this. She's not being molested. She's not being raped. She's not being taken advantage of. If you removed all of these things, what remains of harm?
Nothing.
Everybody saying this? 10-year-old girl at school, 9-year-old girl at school, she's molested by the teacher. That's not her husband. Her father, her mother knows of none of that. He's taking advantage of her. 14 years old, 16 years old, statutory rape, he's doing what? Taking advantage of her. Is that the same as a young girl whose father, whose mother, whose wali say, we marry you to our young daughter with our consent? And she also gives her consent, no matter how young she is. Or she's physically capable of sexual intercourse at whatever age, 12, 15, depending on the girl, depending on the time, depending on how gentle the husband's going to be. It could be a grown man who could be rough and brutal with a grown woman and injure her sexually. She could be a grown 19-year-old girl, 25-year-old woman, and he could be what? He can injure her and damage her sexually. Virgin or not. Is this not probable cause? So if all of these harms and vices, that's hypothetically speaking, if they're all removed from the table, what remains of it being a bad thing? Except for the what?
Culture.
Christian values. Polygamy and all types. Why is alcohol accepted? But weed's so bad, such a bad thing. Weed is evil. What is alcohol? It destroys your kidney, your liver, your tongue, your lips, your body. You beat up your wife, you crash a car, you spend money on gambling, you make zina, you get a disease. Khamr is evil. Yet and still, it's an integral part of the Christian society. There is not an occasion of meeting unless there's what? Khamr. So how is this now? Everybody see the contradictions? So oftentimes, many Muslims, they need to reevaluate some of these rulings and some of these thoughts. I'm not saying weed is permissible, but just in general, they need to reevaluate. And you need to sit down and flush your mind of all of these Christian aqa'id that have taken dominance over how you look at life. Why is it a bad thing to do this and do that? And the hypocrisy and the contradiction of the Christians with regards to slavery. When it came to slavery, the Bible promotes slavery, condones slavery. Ishmael had slaves. Ahab, this one, that one, Job, Jacob, Philon, they all had slaves. So therefore, that's why they have slaves. But the other values of the book of the Bible that they don't follow, such as pork, such as Christmas trees, such as wigs, such as covering, and the list goes on. Everybody understand this? So it's a lot of contradiction with regards to these different things. Don't take it from me. It's not something I'm giving to you from my pocket. Read yourselves the history of marijuana in this country and outside of this country. Read for yourselves the usages of hemp, the many usages of hemp in America, in the UK, in the old world, the ancient world. Read about it. And read when it became what? Bad thing. When it was looked down, when it was condemned. Everybody understand this? And you'll find many shocking points of evidence. So that's what I feel on the issue. There has to be detail. You cannot just give a black and white ruling. It's permissible to take pills? Sometime. Some pills. It may be, I said it may. I said it may be permissible to take some types of medicinal marijuana at what? At times. There has to be detail. But if you just give a black and white ruling, you're going to fall into all types of contradiction. And you're going to look stupid when you actually scientifically deal with things like this, historically. And like I said, do not underestimate propaganda. Do not underestimate what? Propaganda. And from the propaganda is Christian propaganda. They make you think a certain way. They program you. We're not talking about this, Illuminati, conspiracy theories. We're talking about reality. And if you don't believe this, then between me and between you are the what? Books of history that they wrote themselves. Wallahu ta'ala. Any other questions?
Says, what is the ruling when one says wallahi for something and he breaks it? Does one have to fast 3 days?
If you say wallahi for something and you break it, it depends on what you meant. If you just intended to say wallahi, then that's one thing. You call it a man level. Or the level you mean a level. Huh? If you meant wallahi, actually making a vow, I swear, and you break it, then you have to do kafara to another. You have to do kafara to amen. You have to make an expiation of your yameen. Of your what? Of your yameen. The swearing that you made. Which is what? For kafara to who? It'amu. Feed what? 10 people or? That's the last thing.
Freedom.
Emancipation of a slave. Or? فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ 3 days. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Tafadhal.
When you pray and you're following someone who's saying a prayer out loud, in the first 2 rak'ah, they say it out loud. The last 3 or 4 are the last 2. Do you recite to yourself?
As far as the first 2 rak'ah, then the correct view, and Allah knows best, the view of many of the great ulama of Islam is that you should keep silent behind the imam. Do not recite while the imam is reciting out loud. As far as while the imam recites silently, then you should recite silently. Salat al-Dhuhr, reciting on 4. Salat al-Asr, reciting on 4. Salat al-Isha, reciting the last 2. Salat al-Maghrib, reciting the last rak'ah, at least the Fatiha. And in the last 2. As far as Salat al-Isha in the first 2, Salat al-Asr, Salat al-Fajr, then the view that makes the most sense in the law, subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, is that one should keep silent. And when the Quran is recited, فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Allah says, keep silent and listen, perhaps that you will receive mercy. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, many others mentioned, many of the Salaf al-Salih said, نَزَلَتْ فِي قِرَاءَةِ خَلْفِ الْإِمَامِ. This verse was sent down regarding the salah and praying behind the imam. And it only makes sense. What is the fa'idah of you reciting and the imam is reciting? How can you listen to the Quran? How can you ponder on the Quran? And then they say, well, recite after the imam when the imam keeps silent. What if the imam doesn't keep silent? Some imams don't take a pause. They go right into the surah. Or, what is the point of you saying, Alhamdulillah, came rushing before he starts with Shams wa you reciting the Fatiha like a speed race. What's the fa'idah of that? Pondering. Everybody understand this? And some of them, they say that it's permissible to recite before the imam starts reciting if he has no sakatat. There's no time which he's silent. And that's also mushkila because now you're not following the imam, but you're actually preceding the imam. So all of these different context clues show us, and Allah knows best, is that the strongest view is that you should keep silent behind the imam when he recites out loud. Everybody doing this? But that's not necessarily the safest view. The safest view is that you recite the Fatiha. Because those ulama who say that it is mandatory, they say there's no salah unless you recite the Fatiha. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the strongest view. Just because it's the safest view doesn't mean it's what? The strongest. That's in brief, obviously. That's what? In brief. Wallahu a'lam. Next question online.
Question says, can a woman pat water on her hijab during wudu? When she's busy, her time is close to the next prayer.
With regards to her head,
Yeah.
obviously, it seems that she was talking about her head. Can a woman pat water over her wudu? Can a woman make mess on her head? We say yes, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing wrong with that. Whereas a woman is similar to a man, a woman's khimar is similar to a man's head covering, let alone what some of the sahabiyat used to do. Wallahu ta'ala, inshallah, nothing wrong with that. Bismillah. Tafadhal. Tafadhal.
With regards to eclipse, can you just explain a little about the prayer, and is it mandatory if there's an eclipse like there was one in Tanzania?
Question says, with regards to the eclipse, is it mandatory? How do you make it? So on and so forth. We say within that the eclipse, Salat al-Khusuf, and some say Khusuf, solar or lunar, solar or lunar, it's not mandatory within that. It's reckoned an act to be made in congregation. As far as how is it to be made, there is difference of opinion among the people of knowledge. Everyone understand this? Some of them say 2 rak'ah with 4 ruku'ah. You recite the Fatiha in a long surah, make a ruku'ah, come out of ruku'ah, and what? Recite again for a long time, but not as long as the first rak'ah. Go down, finish the salah, come back up. Make a ruku'ah a third time, come out of ruku'ah. Again, so how many ruku'ah? 4. And some of the ulama say this is the most sound way of doing it, and there are other views. Long difference of opinion of regards to how to make it. Inshallah, that's a simple, easy way for you to do.
What about
reciting out loud?
the women at home? What do they do?
Well, it's made in congregation. It's not made by yourself, as we just said.
Yeah, so
The eclipse is made where? In jama'ah, in congregation. A call for it is to be made, the imam, so on and so forth. Now, it's made where? In the congregation, just like the prayer of the rain. Allah Ta'ala, that's obviously what? In brief. Fadl.
Our brother owes another brother money, and the brother said, he's renting out the house, and the brother's sister lives there. So he said, if you don't pay me the money, I will make a conspiracy against you and say that you tried to molest my sister. So the brother texted the brothers. Now he has evidence that he's trying to create the story against him. So what should he do? Should he go to the authorities, or the Muslim, the guy who's threatening him that he's gonna say that you did?
Muslims don't threaten people. It's not the way of Islam. It's not the way of Islam to threaten. Who are you to threaten? Man enter. حتى تهدد الناس وتخوفهم. Man enter بالله عليك. Who are you to threaten somebody? You're a poor slave of Allah. Man enter حتى تهدد الناس. It's not a shape. Threatening Muslims is not Islamic. You can warn a Muslim. You can advise a Muslim. You can threaten him with Allah. Taqillah, Sheikh. It's haram. That Jews. Allah hates this. But your physical harm, you shouldn't do that. Because the Muslim is the brother of the Muslim. And who are you? If you want to threaten somebody, then somebody can threaten you and beat you up and blackmail you. How many skeletons you have in what? In your closet with clothes on. So this is to be avoided. Don't threaten anybody. And anybody who threatens you is not a thorough person. You're not a good, strong Muslim. Strong Muslims, strong men, strong women, they don't threaten people. Wise people don't threaten people. If I intend to do harm to you, I'm not going to threaten you. Because once I threaten you, you're going to be prepared. If I want to do harm to you, I'm going to either do the harm to you, or I'm going to keep you heedless and unaware that it's going to come. Have a good day, Yusuf. Thank you very much. Oh, I slipped, I fell. Don't worry about it. So next time you see me, you're not going to have your guard up. Then wham! Got you. Never expected that. But if I threaten you, then you're always what? Looking out for me. So that's not even from hikmah. Not even Islam. Be merciful to your Muslim brother. Warn your Muslim brother. Advise your Muslim brother. Don't threaten your Muslim brother. Blackmailing people. Then you're lying. Making accusations of rape. What is this? Go be a Christian if you want to do these things. Why? There's no room in Islam to do these things. To make scandal against people and lie. That's not Islamic. Everybody understand this? وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Allah sent down a whole surah about these types of people. They don't watch what they say with their tongues, who gossip, who say these types of evil things with their tongues. Everybody understand this? Al-Muslimu man salim al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. You have to be safe from your Muslim brother, his tongue and his hand. Everybody understand this? You're threatening someone, you're intending to make up a lie, to fabricate a story, accuse someone of rape and this and that. That's severe. That's severe. We all know the punishments of talking falsehood and accusing Muslims of that which they are free from. And some hadiths tell us there is a special place in hell, a special, putrid, terrible valley in the Jahannam for those who talk about Muslims and say things that are not true about those Muslims. So that is evil. It's evil. Calling the authorities, you got to a physical fight with your brother, this and that, that's not as bad as what? Threatening. Tahdeed. And it's very bad. Many people that do this and they attribute themselves to knowledge. And it's not their fault. There are different brothers in the West they do this, they threaten their brothers, if you don't take it back, we're going to warn against you. If we don't take it back, we're going to do this. If you go to this conference, you're not going to come back to our masjid. Wallah, if you do this, you're not going to do kada. Wallah, if you say this, then kada. If you don't disassociate yourself from him, then kada. These people are masakin. They're poor people. They're poor, small, simple-minded people. It's not their fault. They've been miseducated. They've been taught ill in an ill manner, incorrectly. They're poor. They're pawns. The evil people are those who are behind them, those who move those pieces on the chessboard, who teach them and instruct them to threaten another Muslim. Your fellow brother who may be just as knowledgeable as you, may be more knowledgeable. Just experienced as you, may be more experienced. May have better things he's done for Islam and for the Sunnah, but you threaten him. اتق الله يا أخي، هذا خطأ مغالطة تراجع عنها لنفسك أنت. والله إن لم تتراجع والله نحذر منك. ما أحد يجلس عندك. ايش هذا؟ Threatening people about other than Allah. Allah talks about this in the Quran. That they cause you to have fear of those who are besides Allah. Huh? That's not Tawheed. You don't threaten people. Allah Alam.
Question says, is it permissible for a Muslim to take medication to reduce sexual desire if the Muslim has a high sexual desire and the person is married and tried fasting, but it is not helping to reduce the desire?
I wouldn't advise any Muslim to take medicine or any type of herbs, natural, unnatural, with regards to your sexual desire. I would advise for you to take that sexual desire that Allah has placed in you and use it in a permissible means. If you're married, get another wife.
What if it's a sister?
If it's a sister, she needs to advise her husband. No, honestly.
Hit the gym.
Whatever. Allahu Alam. Gym, what you eat, what you drink, out of him, is the husband has to give her what?
Right.
Her rights. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. Allah says, this is not funny, wallahi. This is a serious issue that many people, they complain about. Allah says, and women have similar rights to those that the men have over them. So just as a man has the right that his wife gives him his sexual desires in a permissible way, when he wants them, the husband should do the what? The same. And many brothers, unfortunately, they may be afflicted with impotence. This is reality, wallahi. I can tell you and show you things that you wouldn't believe. Sisters complain, contact, emails, phone calls about their husbands being impotent, having a disease, having a sickness, or not being impotent, but just don't please them sexually. They don't care. So what? I'm not in the mood. Or they may not have the physical ability, the stamina, the length, whatever the case may be. So that's not a problem. That's something that Allah decrees upon a person. The mushkil is for you not to find a way. Not to find a way to fix yourself, to enhance yourself. But if a woman had an injury with her body, if there was something wrong with her sexual organ, if she did not have sexual desires, wallah, you will complain. You will complain. You wouldn't be patient upon it. You wouldn't allow it. If something's wrong, go to the doctor. You would say, go to the doctor. See what's wrong. What's the problem? On the other hand, I don't feel like it. That's wrong. That's good. Your wife in Islam is also your sister. And the Prophet says you can't believe until you love for your brother what you love what? For your sister. And their rights that they have are similar to the rights that you have over them. So therefore, if a sister has a problem with regards to her sexuality, she's hypersexual, whatever the case may be, then she should speak to her husband. She should talk to her husband. And she should be honest. She shouldn't sugarcoat anything. And she should tell her husband that I'm displeased. I'm not pleased. You're not giving me enough of my rights. Please give me more. How, the way, what you do, what's permissible, what's impermissible. Anything that's halal, fi hudud al-jaiz. That's in the boundaries of permissibility should be done. I don't want to do that. No, I don't feel comfortable with that. The sister should say to her husband, if it's not haram, and I like it, and it pleases me, it satisfies me sexually, then you should what? He should do it. As long as it isn't haram. She asks for something that's unlawful, according to Allah and His Messenger, malish, different story. I can't help you out. You have to get another husband. But if it's permissible, but culturally looked down upon, or just not your style, or whatever the case may be, and you want to please this woman, she's your wife, then you should what? You should do it. Why should you do it? Because of what we just quoted in the Quran. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. If you wanted your wife to do a sexual act, and she was displeased with it, and she was uncomfortable with it, what would the husband do? One of two things. He would either complain or he would get it in a haram. He's no doubt about that. He's either going to complain about it, divorce her, beat her, leave her alone, or he's going to get it in the what? In the streets. There's no doubt about that. So why doesn't the rule apply also to the? Everybody understand this? This is a very important concept that many men they have twisted, warped understanding. Everybody understand this? So a Muslim man is a Muslim man who's to be thorough in everything. Your deen, your akhlaq, providing for your wife, taking care of your wife, and also handling your business as a Muslim man. That's from the Sunnah. If you don't have the ability, then learn, study, get someone to teach you what to do, how to do to please your wife. Because if you do not please her, there's a big possibility she may fall into sin. And if she falls into a sin, not only is it your fault, you're going to get some of the sin. Do not cooperate upon sin and transgression. Secondly, the sin that she makes may have a profound effect on you. She may bring back a child that isn't your child. She may bring you back a disease that will kill you. She may bring shame and dishonor to your name, to your family, to your household, to your bed, because you did not fulfill your manly responsibilities. So it's not a small, simple issue. Wallahu ta'ala alam.